In a world where the tiniest misstep could land you in hot water, Alex Thompson had always prided himself on one thing: his impeccable ability to dodge disaster. He had mastered the art of blending in, slipping through life's cracks like a shadow, but today was about to change. It started innocently enough. A Wednesday afternoon, dreary and dull, with the office fluorescent lights buzzing like angry bees. Alex sat at his desk, eyes glazed over from yet another PowerPoint presentation about maximizing efficiency through minimalist desk decor. His stomach growled in protest, a reminder that lunch was a non-negotiable. He scanned the dreary break room, where the vending machine stood like a beacon of hope, albeit a slightly tarnished one. With a resolute sigh, he approached the machine, fingers itching to select a snack. It was a minor offense, surely. A slightly expired Snickers bar? How bad could it be? He chuckled to himself, envisioning the headlines: "Man detained for snack crime in a surveillance state." Little did he know, he was about to become the punchline of his own joke. As he pressed the button, the machine whirred ominously, releasing the coveted candy. Just as he grabbed it, an alarm blared, filling the room with an ear-piercing shriek. Red lights flashed as a drone swooped in, its cheerful AI voice cutting through the chaos. "Congratulations! You've been selected for the minor offense detainment. Please step away from the vending machine." Alex stood frozen, the Snickers bar in hand, mouth agape. Minor offense? For a snack, he protested, but the drone was having none of it. It whisked him away, and before he could process what was happening, he found himself in a large, open arena packed with spectators cheering and jeering, cameras zooming in like hungry vultures. The atmosphere was surreal. A colossal screen loomed above, and on it, a figure cloaked in shadows emerged, a figure that would become the bane of Alex's existence, the Watcher. With a voice that dripped charm and menace, the Watcher announced, "Welcome to the game, citizens. Today, you'll participate in a series of challenges, and remember, the stakes are high. Fail, and you'll face consequences more terrifying than your worst nightmare." Alex blinked, his mind racing. He was no longer a mere office drone, he was now a contestant in a twisted reality show, and the prize? Survival. The first challenge was absurd, an obstacle course filled with surveillance drones armed with confetti bombs. Alex's heart raced, but as he stepped onto the course, something clicked. "What's the worst that could happen?" he muttered, a smirk playing on his lips. He leaped over barriers, dodged drones, and the whole time, he couldn't help but crack jokes. "Watch out. Incoming confetti." He even twirled around, pretending to dance, which drew laughter from the crowd. The drones, confused by his antics, malfunctioned and exploded in showers of colorful paper, much to the audience's delight. As the laughter rang in his ears, Alex realized he was onto something. He wasn't just surviving, he was entertaining. After the chaotic first challenge, Alex found himself surrounded by a motley crew of fellow contestants. There was Rita, a firecracker of a woman with a tinfoil hat who claimed she could predict the future. Then there was Mark, an overly optimistic influencer who treated every challenge like a chance for a viral moment. Their personalities clashed hilariously, and as they bonded over shared fears of failure, Alex couldn't help but feel like he was part of something bigger. Rita, with her wild theories about the Watcher being an alien overlord, kept the mood light. "I swear, if I find out I'm part of an intergalactic experiment, I'm suing," she declared, and they all erupted in laughter. It was a strange camaraderie born from absurdity, but as the challenges escalated, ranging from ludicrous to downright dangerous, Alex began to sense a darker undercurrent. In the third challenge, contestants were asked to reveal their deepest secrets while dangling from a giant inflatable donut over a pit of gelatin. The tension hung thick in the air, and when it was Alex's turn, he accidentally blurted out a secret that made the crowd gasp. "I once tried to start a cult based on snack foods. It flopped harder than my love life." The laughter that followed was bittersweet as he glanced at the grim expressions on some faces, realizing the stakes of the game were all too real. Meanwhile, the true nature of the game unfolded. Rita revealed that it was more than just entertainment, it was a means to control the population, keeping everyone in line through fear and humiliation. "They want us to fail," she said, her voice low. "But we can't let them win." Motivated by the growing bond between the contestants, Alex concocted a plan. They decided to turn the tables on the watcher. For the final challenge, instead of following the ridiculous rules, they would stage a rebellion. The final challenge came quickly, a test of bravery and wit, broadcast live to millions. Alex stood before a massive screen, the audience holding their breath. "You will confront your greatest fear," the watcher proclaimed, a gleam of malice in his eyes. As each contestant faced their challenges, Mark pretended to swim in a pool of glowing jelly, while Rita confronted a mannequin resembling the watcher. Alex felt the pressure mounting. Finally, it was his turn. He was faced with a choice: confront his fear of public speaking or spill the most embarrassing secret he could think of. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, the crowd buzzing with anticipation. "I once wore socks with sandals on a date," he shouted, and the crowd erupted in laughter. It was a bold move, and in that moment, he realized he had the audience's attention. But here's the real kicker. The watcher isn't just some guy in a dark room, he's a glorified meme with a superiority complex. With that, the crowd's laughter turned into a chant of rebellion. They began to question the watcher's authority, mocking his ridiculous rules. The watcher, sensing the shift, started to panic. The control he thrived on was slipping away. Alex's crew quickly joined in, staging a chaotic yet comedic protest. They tossed confetti bombs back at the drones, turning the once menacing surveillance into a vibrant celebration. As the arena filled with colorful chaos, the drones malfunctioned, buzzing and spinning wildly, losing their grip on the situation. In a final act of defiance, Alex and his friends hacked into the game's mainframe, feeding false data that made the watcher appear foolish and incompetent. The screen flickered, and for a moment, the audience saw the watcher, not as a menacing overseer, but as a bumbling fool trying to regain control of his failing show. Laughter erupted, drowning out any authority he had left. The cameras captured every moment, broadcasting the downfall of the once feared watcher. The people cheered, their voices echoing through the arena. "No more games," they chanted, reclaiming their autonomy. As the dust settled, Alex stood amidst his friends, a mix of disbelief and triumph washing over him. They had taken back their power, and in doing so, they had found themselves. In the days that followed, the city began to change. The once ominous surveillance drones transformed into playful, confetti-slinging machines that celebrated the community rather than instilling fear. Alex found himself at the center of a movement, his story becoming a symbol of resistance. Reflecting on his journey, he couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. From a mundane office job to an unexpected hero, he had learned to embrace the chaos. And while he was still wary of vending machines, he knew he'd never again back down from a challenge. In the end, Alex Thompson wasn't just a survivor, he was a leader, a voice for those who had felt voiceless. With friends like Rita and Mark by his side, he stepped into a future filled with uncertainty but also hope, ready to face whatever came next. Together. As the sun set on the transformed arena, Alex felt a sense of exhilaration coursing through him. The roar of the crowd still echoed in his ears, a reminder that they had broken free from the grip of the oppressive game. With a newfound sense of purpose, he turned to his friends. "Can you believe we actually did it?" he exclaimed, a grin plastered across his face. Rita adjusted her tinfoil hat, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I knew the universe was on our side. This is just the beginning." Mark, ever the optimist, raised his arms as if addressing a stadium. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new era. We've not only survived, we've thrived. Who's ready for a victory party?" The crowd began to disperse, but the energy remained electric. They were no longer just participants, they were pioneers of a movement that sought to reclaim their lives from the clutches of surveillance. Alex glanced around, taking in the faces of those who had once been strangers but were now allies in rebellion. "First order of business," Alex declared, "let's find some actual snacks that don't come with a side of fear." Laughter erupted, and soon they were making their way to a nearby food truck, a garish, colorful vehicle with the words "Freedom Fries" emblazoned across the side. While waiting in line, Alex reflected on how surreal this all felt. He had gone from a drab office worker to an accidental hero in what felt like the blink of an eye. And yet, he knew the journey was far from over. The Watcher might have been temporarily embarrassed, but the system that had supported him was still intact, lurking in the shadows. As they munched on fries doused in an absurd amount of ketchup, Rita suddenly turned serious. "So what do we do next? We can't just sit back and relax. This is just a battle won in a much larger war." Mark nodded, his usual buoyancy momentarily dimmed. "Rita's right. The Watcher's still out there, and he's not going to take this lying down. We need a plan." Alex took a deep breath, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "You're both right. We need to find a way to spread our message, to rally more people to our cause. But how do we do that?" As if on cue, a voice cut through the chatter around them. "You could start by sharing your story online. People love a good underdog tale." They turned to see a tall figure with wild hair and a camera slung around his neck, Ben, a fellow contestant who had taken a liking to the spotlight. "You've got charisma, man. People want to hear about how you flipped the script on the Watcher." Mark's eyes lit up. "We could create a vlog. Document everything, the challenges, our daily lives, the changes we want to see. People will relate." Rita's tinfoil hat gleamed under the food truck's neon lights as she contemplated the idea. "But we have to be careful. The Watcher will be watching us even more closely now." "Exactly," Alex said, tapping his fingers against the truck. "We need to be strategic. Use humor, but also share the serious side of what we experienced. Show people the truth behind the game." Fueled by fries and fervor, they mapped out their plan. Over the next few days, they transformed Alex's modest apartment into a makeshift studio, cluttered with cameras, microphones, and brightly colored props. They called it the Freedom Channel, a nod to their mission of liberation from the oppressive watchful eye. They began recording skits that blended humor with pointed commentary about surveillance and autonomy. They would prank each other, then seamlessly weave in narratives about their experiences in the game. Each video ended with a heartfelt call to action, urging viewers to question authority and resist control. As their channel gained traction, Alex found himself enjoying the process more than he had expected. He felt liberated, not just from the Watcher but from his old self. The shy, anxious office worker was being replaced by someone more confident, someone who could stand up and speak out. Then came the day when they hit a milestone, 100,000 subscribers. It was exhilarating, and the four friends celebrated with a pizza party, reveling in their collective success. But as they laughed and ate, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the celebration was too premature. "This is great and all," he said, wiping grease from his chin, "but what happens when the watcher responds? We've put ourselves out there, and he won't like that." Rita rolled her eyes playfully. "Let him try. We're not scared anymore. We've got the people behind us." Mark raised a slice of pizza like a trophy. "And we've got the power of the internet. There's no way he can suppress this wave." But that night, as Alex lay in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. They had ignited a spark, yes, but what if it attracted the very beast they were trying to avoid? He tossed and turned, sleep elusive as he pondered the repercussions of their newfound fame. Days turned into weeks, and the movement they sparked continued to grow. The Freedom Channel became a sensation, featuring guests, live debates, and a mix of humor and activism. People were rallying around their cause, sharing stories of how surveillance had impacted their lives. Then, one fateful evening, as they were filming a live stream, everything changed. Just as Alex was about to share a particularly humorous anecdote about a failed attempt to sneak snacks into the office, the stream suddenly cut out. The screen flickered, then was replaced by a chilling image, the watcher's face, smirking down at them from a darkened room. "Hello, freedom fighters," he began, his voice smooth yet dripping with malice. "You've made quite a name for yourselves. But let's not forget who holds the power here." The audience's comments flooded the chat, a mix of panic and confusion. Alex's heart raced as he exchanged worried glances with his friends. "This isn't just a game, my dear contestants. You've crossed a line. I advise you to tread carefully. The consequences of your actions will be irreversible." With that, the stream cut off completely, plunging them into silence. The reality of their situation crashed down on them. The Watcher was not just an antagonist in a game, he was a looming threat, one that they had drawn attention from by challenging him directly. "What do we do?" Rita whispered, her earlier bravado faltering. "We regroup," Alex said firmly, forcing himself to remain calm. "We can't panic. We need to plan our next steps and make sure we stay one step ahead." Mark nodded, but the unease was palpable. "We've put ourselves out there. We need to prepare for whatever he throws at us next." And so, they devised a plan. They would create a counter-narrative, leveraging their platform to expose the Watcher's true nature. They began researching everything they could find about the surveillance system, gathering testimonies and stories from others who had experienced similar threats. Alex also reached out to local activists and groups, hoping to form alliances that could strengthen their cause. The more they connected with others, the more they realized the depth of the problem they were facing. Weeks passed, and tension hung in the air. They worked tirelessly, creating content that highlighted not just their journey but the stories of countless others affected by the surveillance state. They crafted videos that combined humor and stark reality, urging viewers to fight back against the oppressive forces that had taken hold of their lives. Then came the day when they received an unexpected email from a group of hackers known only as the Collective. They offered their support, revealing that they had been following the Watcher's movements and were ready to help in any way they could. "We need to take the game to him," Alex decided, feeling a fire ignite within him. "If we can expose the truth about the Watcher and the surveillance state, we can rally even more support." The plan was audacious, but the more they discussed it, the clearer it became that this was their chance. They would infiltrate the very system that had oppressed them, using the resources provided by the collective to gather evidence and share the truth. With each passing day, they felt the momentum building, and the energy was infectious. The community they had created online became a powerful force, sharing their content far and wide, urging others to join the fight. Then came the night of the operation. Under the cover of darkness, Alex, Rita, and Mark slipped out to meet the collective in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The atmosphere was charged, excitement mingling with nerves as they entered a dimly lit room filled with screens and buzzing machines. The leader of the collective, a woman named Nina, welcomed them. "You've done well to gather this many supporters. Tonight, we expose the Watcher once and for all." With a plan set, they worked together, combing through surveillance footage, hidden files, and documents that detailed the true extent of the Watcher's operations. The hours flew by as they pieced together a narrative that would shake the very foundations of the surveillance state. Finally, as dawn broke, they were ready. With trembling hands, Alex hit the stream button, broadcasting their findings to the world. "Good morning, citizens. This is not just a story, it's a wake-up call," Alex began, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Today, we will show you the truth behind the Watcher, and we will not back down." They shared the shocking evidence, hidden files that documented the extent of the Watcher's control, surveillance techniques used to monitor everyday citizens, and the brutal consequences faced by those who dared to resist. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments flooded in, people expressing outrage and disbelief. They were no longer just a small group fighting a battle, they were leading a revolution. As the stream continued, Alex glanced at Rita and Mark, their faces illuminated by the glow of the screens. The sense of camaraderie and purpose enveloped them, a bond forged through laughter, fear, and the collective fight for freedom. Then, just as the tide seemed to be turning in their favor, a sudden noise cut through the excitement, the sound of sirens wailing in the distance. Alex's heart dropped. "They're on to us," he breathed, panic surging. "Stay calm," Nina urged, her voice steady. "We can't let them silence us now. We need to finish this." With the sirens growing louder, they pressed on, sharing personal testimonies and calling for action. The energy in the chat was electric, people rallying together, refusing to be silenced. But as the sirens drew closer, the tension in the room escalated. Alex glanced at the clock, and dread settled in. They had to wrap this up, and fast. "All right, everyone," he said, voice steady despite the turmoil. "We are not afraid. This is just the beginning of our fight. Together, we will reclaim our freedom." With a final push, they concluded the stream, but not before Nina encrypted the evidence and prepared it for distribution. As they packed up their equipment, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the warehouse. "Quick! We need to get out of here," Mark urged, urgency in his voice. They scrambled to gather their things, adrenaline pumping. The door burst open, and a group of officers flooded in, shouting orders. "Freeze! Hands up!" Chaos erupted as Alex and his friends dashed for a side exit. Heart pounding, Alex glanced back, the reality of the situation crashing down around him. They were no longer just fighting a game, they were fighting for their lives. They sprinted into the alley, adrenaline pushing them forward. The sirens blared behind them, and the world felt surreal. The shadows loomed large as they darted around corners, breathing hard, desperation fueling their escape. With each step, Alex could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on him. They were up against a system that had controlled them for far too long, and now, they were determined to fight back. As they turned a corner, they spotted an old warehouse with a slightly ajar door. "In there!" Rita shouted, and they dove inside, hearts racing. Inside, they found a labyrinth of crates and equipment, shadows shifting in the dim light. They huddled together, catching their breath as they listened to the sounds of pursuit outside. "We need to figure out our next move," Alex said, his mind racing. "We can't let them catch us, not now." Rita nodded, her expression serious. "We've come too far to give up. We need to regroup and get this information out." Just as they began to formulate a plan, a soft rustling interrupted them. They turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows, a tall man with a familiar face. "Alex," he said, stepping forward. "It's me, Jake, from the office. I saw your stream, and I came to help." "Jake!" Alex exclaimed, surprised. "How did you find us?" "I've been following what you guys are doing. I believe in this cause, and I have some resources that can help us hide and strategize. We can't let the Watcher win." Relief washed over Alex. They weren't alone in this fight. With Jake's connections and the support of the collective, they had a fighting chance. As the sounds of their pursuers faded into the distance, they began to discuss their next steps. With every word spoken, Alex felt the resolve within him solidify. They would not let fear dictate their actions any longer. The sun rose, casting light into the warehouse, illuminating their determined faces. They shared stories, strategized, and laughed nervously as they planned their next move. Days turned into weeks, and their coalition grew. They worked tirelessly, creating safe houses, spreading the information they had gathered, and connecting with other groups fighting against the oppressive system. As momentum built, they organized rallies, creating a space for people to share their experiences and voice their frustrations. The movement was gaining traction, and with each passing day, more and more people joined their cause. Then came the day they had been waiting for, the moment to confront the Watcher once and for all. In the heart of the city, they organized a massive rally, a culmination of all their efforts. Banners waved in the air, chants echoed through the streets, and a palpable energy filled the atmosphere. Alex stood on a makeshift stage, looking out at the sea of faces filled with hope and determination. "Today, we take a stand. Today, we show the Watcher that we are no longer afraid." The crowd erupted in cheers, a wave of sound that sent shivers down his spine. He could feel the power of unity coursing through him, the strength of their collective voice. As he spoke about the importance of freedom and autonomy, he saw familiar faces in the crowd: Rita, Mark, Jake, and countless others who had fought alongside him. Their journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but they were united in purpose. Then came the moment they had all anticipated, the appearance of the Watcher himself. A massive screen flickered to life behind Alex, and the familiar figure materialized, his smug smile sending a ripple of tension through the crowd. "Ah, the rebels," the Watcher said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "How quaint. You really think you can change anything?" But Alex stood firm, refusing to let fear dictate his words. "We've already changed everything. This is just the beginning. We will no longer be controlled by your games." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising like a tidal wave, drowning out the Watcher's protests. In that moment, Alex knew they had struck a chord, had ignited a fire that couldn't be extinguished. As the tension escalated, the crowd surged forward, chanting, no more games. No more fear. The atmosphere shifted, the collective will of the people a force to be reckoned with. The Watcher, realizing he was losing control, attempted to rally his drones, but it was too late. The energy of the crowd was unstoppable. In a final act of defiance, Alex turned to the camera that had been set up to stream the rally live. This is for everyone who has ever felt powerless. This is for the future we deserve, a future free from oppression. With that declaration, the tide turned. People began to rise, their voices merging into a singular force, a battle cry against the tyranny they had faced for too long. And as the rally reached its peak, the screen behind them flickered again. This time, it displayed footage of the Watcher's past, a montage of manipulation, control, and the lengths he had gone to maintain his power. The crowd gasped as the truth was laid bare, and in that moment, they felt a shift. The Watcher was no longer an invincible figure, he was exposed, vulnerable, and human. Fueled by the revelations, the crowd surged forward, ready to reclaim their lives and their autonomy. The momentum was palpable, and Alex felt a surge of hope he had never known before. As the rally reached its crescendo, it became clear that they were not just participants in a game, they were a movement, a force of change that could reshape the future. The Watcher's laughter turned to desperation as he realized he was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and outclassed. The truth was more powerful than any game he could orchestrate. In that moment, Alex knew they had won, not just a battle, but a war for their freedom. Together, they would dismantle the oppressive system that had sought to control them. As the crowd erupted into cheers, Alex glanced at his friends, their faces illuminated by the dawn of a new era. They had turned the tide, reclaimed their power, and together, they were unstoppable. And as they stood united, their hearts filled with hope and determination, they knew they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were not just survivors, they were warriors in the fight for freedom. In the days that followed, the movement continued to grow, spreading like wildfire across the city. The Watcher's reign of terror began to crumble as people stood together, refusing to be silenced any longer. Through the trials and triumphs, Alex realized that they had sparked something greater than themselves. They had ignited a movement that would forever change the course of their lives and the lives of countless others. And so, as they stepped into the future, united in purpose and passion, they knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with possibility, hope, and the unwavering belief in the power of the people. The journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but together, they were ready to face anything. Their laughter echoed in the streets, a reminder that joy and resilience could thrive even in the darkest of times. As they marched forward, hand in hand, Alex realized that they had not only broken free from the chains of the Watcher's game but had also discovered the true strength of community, love, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. And with that, they stepped boldly into the dawn of a new day, ready to write their own story, one filled with laughter, courage, and an unwavering commitment to freedom.